In episode 9, first thing in the morning, Alex takes the video that Bradley had sent to Chip and she shows it to not only Celine, but Ben and UBN's top lawyer. There's not really much to the video. It's Bradley being taken at customs. The police in Belarus take her laptop and her hard drive, but Bradley does speak in the video about sending Chip some files. It's not known whether Bradley had been able to meet with the source or what she found or anything, because she's taken. The Belarus police are claiming that they found a suspicious hard drive, and in the moment, she's just in custody. She hasn't been charged with anything. But if she is charged, that's really, really bad, because getting her back is going to be nearly impossible for a long time. So time is of the essence to get Bradley out of custody in this Belarus airport. Eventually, Celine asks, what was she doing in Belarus? And Alex, not knowing Celine's connections to Wolf River, says she was checking in on a story about this chemical company. It was all before the merger, and she had found a source in Belarus, so she went to go talk with her. At this, Celine's ears perk up. She never lets on, though, that she knows about Wolf River. She just continues to gather intel on the matter. And as Alex beats herself up over this, saying how it's her fault, Celine actually says, no, you couldn't have known. It's not your fault. Stop. Alex, though, wants to get on a plane right away to handle this, but Celine shuts that down, saying, no, we're going to go through the State Department on this. And then she turns to Ben and says, we're not going to talk about it on air. Not until we have our ducks in a row and everything prepared for it. Essentially, she's putting the kibosh on airing anything or getting involved with it. She wants to, quote unquote, see how this thing plays out. What she really wants to do is figure out what Bradley had found and then find a solution to it. Alex did, in fact, mention that Bradley was working with Chip, which comes as a big surprise to Ben, so that is going to be Celine's in. In the meantime, though, as far as the staff on the morning show is concerned, Bradley is just sick, which is going to force Chris in her spot all week. And one of the things that Chris wants to do that week is give back her medals. It's a super emotional moment. They bring in the woman that finished second, the Jamaican sprinter, and Chris gives the medals, and the woman forgives her. It's nice. But behind the scenes, though, it is all about Bradley. When Alex does meet with Chip, he's been able to learn from a friend at the IMF that they're planning on moving Bradley at the end of the day, the next day. So they really need to work quickly. Chip was able to get the file that Bradley sent over before she was detained, but he just started going through it. He doesn't know what she found, and he doesn't know what they think she found. At the moment, they're thinking that she's an espionage agent. And I will remind you, she was working for the FBI at one point, so they're not exactly wrong. But for Alex, even though Celine said, oh, you can't beat yourself up over this, she is. And she's not about to sit back and let the State Department just handle it. Not after hearing about the fact that they're going to move Bradley and charge her within the next 48 hours. She's got to do something. She's got to act quickly, and there's only one person she knows that might be able to help out. After brainstorming a little bit with Chip and talking about how politics works in Belarus, they both know that you have to kind of sweet talk an oligarch, somebody high up. It's corrupt. And there's one person she knows that knows an oligarch. That is Paul Marks. It's not like she wants to go and beg Paul Marks hat in hand, but at the moment she doesn't have a choice. So she does it. She sets up a meeting with Paul for later that night, not telling him what it's about. Incredibly, Paul Marks is very hospitable. And as Alex sits down and explains the situation with Bradley, they get interrupted by Paul's fixer, Amanda, who has never trusted Alex. She doesn't like the fact that Alex is back asking favors of Paul, because she just thinks that Paul becomes putty in Alex's hands. But in this particular instance, there's nothing that Paul can really do. Alex brings up the fact that Paul is familiar with this oligarch over there, a very powerful man named Dimitri. Maybe Paul can talk to him, but Paul tells her, Alex, it's not exactly the way it works. I mean, I'm sorry, but I can't really help you. It's going to send Alex back to the drawing board, and Amanda is certainly relieved that Paul won't be helping her out. The next day in the offices, though, Chip is brought in by Celine and Ben because they want to get the lowdown on what exactly he knows regarding the Bradley situation. They start out just by asking him about the project and about this source, and Chip starts explaining how they found her exactly, but Celine gets really weird with it. hypothesizing that maybe the source was the one that screwed Bradley over, telling the authorities about her and getting her locked up. And Chip just doesn't buy that. But then Celine really goes in on what exactly was in those files. And at first, Chip says, I wouldn't be able to share them with you without Bradley's consent. But when Celine continues to probe, Chip just says, yeah, I didn't get them. And obviously he did, and Celine certainly doesn't buy that. But the way that Celine carried herself in this meeting has Chip's alarm bells going off. So instead of leaving the office after the meeting, he goes down to Bradley's dressing room and snoops around trying to find any information he might be able to regarding anything, any clues. And he doesn't find any because he's interrupted by Mia, who walks in and sees him snooping around, and he makes up some lie about, oh yeah, Bradley asked me to stop by, but Mia doesn't buy it. She says, come on, what's going on? She's not sick. And at first, Chip doesn't want to tell her anything, but she threatens to go to Celine, who Chip already kind of admitted to Mia he doesn't really trust all that much. So this kind of forces Chip to tell Mia everything. And Mia isn't going to rat him out. No, she actually wants to help. So Chip and Mia head over to Alex's apartment later that day where Alex is combing over all the files. She was able to find something. It was just a document that said Wolf River, but that's when Alex stops because she was not expecting Mia to also show up. Their last conversation wasn't exactly a good one. But Mia quickly says, I know everything. I'm here to help. Andre is in Minsk, and he'll help with Bradley as soon as he's on the ground. Chip then gets a phone call, which is going to force these two to talk about the elephant in the room, how things ended. To which Alex apologizes. She owns up for her part in this. She says that she should have went to bat for Mia way more than she did, and she feels really bad about everything. And Mia accepts the apology, so it seems like they're back on good terms, and everybody's just focused on helping Bradley get the hell out of Minsk, Belarus. It's at that moment that Alex gets a surprising phone call from Paul Marks. Even though Amanda pressed him on not helping her out, he couldn't help himself, so he did make a phone call to Dimitri. Turns out Dimitri has two weaknesses, the opera and his mistress, who is a wannabe actress. So Paul has set it up where Dimitri's going to fly in and be his personal guest at the opera that night, where he's instructed Alex and Mia to be there, where Paul will make an introduction. Alex will then pitch Dimitri on involving himself in the Bradley situation and getting her freed. Now, he's not going to do this just out of the goodness of his heart. He's going to want something. And Paul says, well, his girlfriend is an actress, and her TV show has been basically killed. You have connections, so you can either get it up and running or get her a new show, but you got to help out. That's the price it's going to take, and Alex is on board. As everybody gets ready for the opera that night, Celine decided to go visit her old buddy, Corey. Initially, she wanted to check in on him after their skiing trip, but she also wanted to check in on him because she knows what happened to his mom. So she heads over to just be a friend in that moment. But the conversation gets to why exactly she hasn't left Miles yet. And that morphs into their relationship. How Corey was clearly interested in her back in LA years ago, but never made a move. And that leads into them passionately making out all of a sudden. It's hot, it's heavy, and then it gets interrupted by the florist who's got the flower arrangements for Corey's mom's funeral. The two do not pick up where they left off making out. This completely sidetracks Corey into talking about his mom and the fact that she was alone the last few days of her life, and he's beating himself up over it. And all he's got left is this box of her belongings that she left for him that he can't bring himself to actually open. So Celine says, well, let's open it together. I'll be here for you to support. But as they start opening it up, and it's just general stuff. There's a leather jacket from his dad in there. There's pictures. Not too far away at the opera, Dimitri does show up. Paul does make the introduction between Alex and Dimitri. It seems like this thing is going to be pretty seamless, but it's not. When Alex explains the situation with Bradley and custody and getting him out, Dimitri shocks both Alex and Paul by saying, I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. It's not just one call, it's several calls, and you want this done immediately. It's just not going to happen. However, he was lying, because when he goes back into the suite, he's talking to his girlfriend in Russian, not aware of the fact that Mia also speaks Russian. She's listening to the conversation. And Dimitri's telling his girlfriend, no, they have more to offer than this. We can get you more than a TV show. So when Mia hears this, she runs downstairs. She finds Alex, who's freaking out at this point, thinking the deal is dead. And Mia says, no, he will make the call. You just have to offer more than a TV show. Now, my dumbass is thinking, yeah, offer her a movie. But no, that's not where Alex goes. She pulls Paul Marks into the coat closet, and she says what Mia overheard, and she brings up a tech deal that fell through. That's how Paul and Dimitri know each other, this failed tech deal. The deal fell through because Dimitri had gotten some sanctions. But Alex proposes, what if you license us the tech software, and then we just basically give it to Dimitri? With everything going on with the AI and the Olympics, it's a long shot that it would fall back on us. But Paul is worried that it would fall back on them. He tells her, if the feds find out about this, we're going to be screwed. But Alex doesn't care. I mean, this is the one opportunity they have to get Bradley out of there, so she insists, and Paul gives in. He calls up Amanda, and he explains the deal, and Amanda says, are you serious right now? You're going to launder a tech deal through your ex-girlfriend? I mean, what's your end game? To run off with Alex? To go hunting with Vladimir Putin? Like, what do you get out of this? And he says, I have to put my life back together, and there is a karmic debt that needs to be repaid, and it's collecting interest. She gives him some speech on not being able to quit Alex Levy, but he says, yeah, maybe that's true. We're still doing this. And Amanda reluctantly says, okay, I'll make some calls. And boy, does she. She makes some phone calls to Celine, who was in the process of looking over that box pretty frantically as Corey just went to the bathroom. No idea what exactly she was looking for, but when she gets the text from Amanda on what Paul is planning on doing, she excuses herself from Corey's apartment, saying there's a family emergency. She calls up her brother, and she shuts the deal down. So while Alex thought this deal is set, they're going to go through with this, Bradley will be released, Andre is going to pick her up, and she's sitting at the opera waiting for the phone call from Chip to tell her that Bradley is in safe hands. She unfortunately gets a phone call from Chip saying, I'm sorry, but it fell through. She's being charged. She was taken. At this, Alex is shook. But she's not the only one. When Dimitri gets the text of the fact that the deal fell through, he immediately leaves the opera, thanking Paul, but saying, yeah, we got to go. And Paul's as dumbfounded as Dimitri. He's like, whoa, bud, is everything okay? But Dimitri gives him a look like, no, it's not. So as soon as the show's over, Paul goes to find Alex and asks, what the hell's going on? And Alex fills him in. But she's so troubled by what happened that she just goes home, and she meets up with Chip that night, and they kind of just drink, blaming themselves and wondering what the hell's next. Meanwhile, Amanda's big concern was all of this blowing back on her, so she calls Celine, and Celine assures her, no, none of it's going to fall back on you. My family put the phone calls in to kill the deal. We did it through so many different people that it's not going to come back on you. Do not worry. And as for Bradley, the State Department, this is now their issue. She'll eventually be free. Don't worry about it. But in fact, Celine does not want Bradley to ever be freed. Her brother, who was really the one that did kill this deal, starts telling his sister, you need to thank me for this one. I just bailed you out. You think you should be in charge. This is why I'm in charge. But when he says, they're going to keep trying to get Bradley back, Celine says, yeah, they can try. Implying that they can try, but they're not going to be able to. And UBN is, in fact, trying. I mean, as soon as Bradley was charged, Ben put a full court press, basically saying that UBN and the morning show is just going to be all Bradley all the time until she is returned. But Celine might have another issue. Because after she left, Corey put on his dad's old leather jacket, the one that was left to him by his mom. And as he was feeling around the pockets, there was a report that was stuffed into one of them. A report by the EPA from Wolf River. Thank you so much for checking out this recap. Please consider subscribing to the channel and subscribing to my Patreon. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought it sucked. If you left a comment, I don't get back to you. I usually don't check the comments unless they're like a super comment. Also, if you don't see the next video up on the end screen, not to worry. It'll be up in a day or two.